So I guess we are ready to continue. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we start with our panel discussion here on NDT 4.0. I'm in the business since the 90s and I've seen a lot of things. We had traditional methods, we used magnetic powders, we used penetrants, we had our flaw detectors, and then the revolution came in. What was the revolution? We got little computers built into the devices. So it went faster but not better in my feeling. It improved very much. Then we were able to get out the data out of those facilities, out of those equipment. And what we do with the data? We store it. We store it on a USB stick. We store it on a hard disk. And now comes the next revolution. We have clouds. And now we think we are done. So we handle our data into a cloud and we are ready. And I fear a little bit, this is not the end. And I fear something will change rapidly and significantly. There was a doctoral thesis of Caspar Wassink at the University of Amsterdam. He analyzed the NDT business and said every innovation in NDT takes between the formal innovation and the business use 27 years. I guess 27 years here in this revolution will be much too long. A big change is standing in front of us. And if we just stand aside and say, oh, okay, let's see what's coming up. Let's see what's coming up. I got the cloud. My device is working on the cloud and I'm ready. I think it can happen that you say, oh, who's coming there? Somebody is bypassing you. Faster, easier, you never thought of. UT devices will come from companies we've never heard of. They produce robots. Why don't they put a little sensor on their robots and they are ready? Oh, and that is a fear which is coming up. In the morning I thought, hey, what dreamers are standing in front of us? They are talking about technologies and dreams and what will develop. But as far as I know them, they are no dreamers. They are scientists. So they analyze. They have an idea. They have big experience in industries. Done. Oh, for how many years? I don't know. 47 years. Oh, they are no dreamers. They are realists. And so let's start with the panel discussion with an open question to everybody. Please, everybody, very shortly, business-wise, where do you come from? And what does this 4.0 mean to you? Let's start here with Don.
So the question is, where do I come from? And what does this mean to me?
Yeah, business-wise.
Business-wise, okay. I'm in the training business. So my objective is to bring people from a simple concept to a skill. So it means closing the loop, like Ripi talked about. Not just giving out information, but taking people from one skill set to another skill set to a higher skill set and closing that loop. Performance demonstration is what ASME is talking about all the time and what we have also been talking about for many years. My history goes back to the Air Force in the early 70s. They had a program called Have Cracks Will Travel. Okay, they took components around the country and tested people to see what their real skill set was. We found out in those days that the POD in the Air Force was about 50-50. It was not good. So it's just continuous learning. And to me, our business is continuously growing. It's like insurance. Training is always going to be a need. Ripi mentioned in his comments that there might be some technicians that need less training, but I see it as different training, not less training. Just training on new concepts and closing the loop.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Kim Hayes, and I always when I look at this NDE 4.0, it's chasing the unicorn, right? You gotta reach farther out and kind of be visionary. I love the one concept: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, and that's Dr. Dwayne Geesh. And it's almost where we have to sit in this paradigm, is from even how we manufacture, and that was well stated by Ripi. No need for a 22-inch manway hole, if you're going to bring a robot in or have in-situ monitoring. So we're really going to have to be in this mind adjustment. But I come from over 20-something years in NDT. But the funny thing, prior to that, I worked for a company that sold microfiche in the 80s after high school. And I remember computers were really getting momentum. And I remember talking to them, hey, this computer stuff, is kind of cool. And they're like, oh, no, people are always going to need hard copies. And unfortunately, now you only see them selling cameras on infomercials on TV. So if you're not changing, and if you're not a part of that change, it's just going to leave you behind. But you can't trip on what's behind you. You've always got to look forward. And one of for how NDE 4.0, and 20 of those years, I worked for 2 companies, and one, I didn't realize until Ripi spoke, but I think they actually had the right idea on the importance of having the value chain. This company, cut and bevel, post-well heat treat, destructive, non-destructive testing, all these different business units had the opportunity to have transparency, to throw the business cards out the door and really look at, and my other favorite quote is, you don't need a new 3/4-inch drill bit, you need a 3/4-inch hole. And so, you don't need a new same box. We need to look at the problem and the challenge a little bit differently than we did in the past, and focus on the problem and how do we really tackle that. And it may be completely different methodologies, but we need to really kind of embrace that in the way we view it. But we have to do it collectively in the whole value chain. We have to do it from all aspects of the object in which we're inspecting, and I didn't really put all that together until you were speaking earlier, so it's kind of nice to be a part of that kind of strategy, but I think it's something that's got to continue, a high level of transparency.
Thank you.
You can tell I have a lot to say about that, sorry.
Thank you. What is Ripi's business? Tell us.
What's my business? My business is purposeful innovation coaching, and I have 2 years of experience and about 35 years of learning to get there. And in these 2 years, the evolution has been thanks to the Industry 4.0, Society 5.0, and even United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as to what does the planet Earth really need to sustain. So to my business, what this means is opening the mindset with all my clients and helping them see things a little bit differently, see things as to what value you're adding to the society in whichever fashion you can, and are you working favorably for the planet. And if I bring that down to the NDT world, it's like I mentioned before, it's about safety of the inspectors, safety of the asset users, as well as generating economic value, and all of this in a sustainable manner.
Thank you. Johannes.
Hello, Rolf. Thank you. Yeah, for me, my name is Johannes Vrana, and I'm a physicist. And this is all my life in NDE was about how can we actually improve our NDE technologies. I worked on stuff like induction thermography. That was the very beginning of that technology. I worked on the last years on how to further improve ultrasonics by using SAFT and getting our sensitivities better. But actually during the same time I worked on SAFT, I came around some projects on probabilistic lifing. And they needed data from me. They needed data from me to actually put it into their probabilistic lifing method to being able better how to calculate the life of a component. And we were able to actually improve the life by 50%. And so we built up some databases and stuff like that, and that was about 5 years ago. And so I got more and more interested in that topic, and in the time I learned that all of this is actually Industry 4.0. So that's how I kind of more or less stumbled into Industry 4.0, and how I then tried to, I saw the value, And I saw that the value for the NDE industry is far larger than what I was doing in the past by improving the techniques. Because now it's about how can we improve the sales of our results? How can we make more benefit to our whole industry? How perhaps we can get our industry out of this unnecessary cost factor some of our customers are looking towards us. And I think this is the way. And so for me, this is really a chance for the whole industry. And it's something not one of us can take on. We have to take it on together. We have to take it on an international basis. And we have to work together as a society and not research institute by research institute and company by company.
Thank you. Krishna, please.
Yes. Okay. I'm Krishnan Balasubramanian, often called as Krishnan or Bala. I'm probably the only one in the panel that is from the academia. As an academician, I think my primary role, as I see it, is to harness and try to motivate young minds and transform it into something that becomes disruptive for the NDE community. And that's what I've been doing for the last 35 years. We also, of course, as a secondary, work with the industry and try to see if we can solve the nitty-gritty problems or daily problems that industry keeps coming up with. But, Industry 4.0 is something I must first confess, is something that we've been working on off and on for a while. But NDE 4.0 is terminology is something which I learned only maybe 6 months, 8 months ago. But then you look introspective and say, so many things that we talk about in NDE 4.0 is something that we've been doing, bits and pieces of it. But maybe when you look at it from a wholesome perspective, it gives you a very different, possibilities. In my mind, and I want to sum it up in a very short way. For me, NDE 4.0 basically is 4 acronym terminology. I call it ICIS, and I'll explain very briefly what I mean. The first I stands for invariance. In other words, we need to look at various sensing and measurement technologies without really going into what it really is all about. In other words, that goes back to where my previous speaker talked about the drill bit and the hole. I mean, the guy who is in the field wants to know whether there's something wrong or not wrong. He doesn't care about how you got the information. And that is basically what we need to do. It's got to be invariant to the modalities. We need to mix up NDE sensing with conventional sensing, like temperature, pressure, whatever be necessary. So that's the first thing. How do we get that going? And I have some pretty good thoughts that already has come across. The second is C, which is connectivity. So we need to have connected information, connected sensing protocols that are transparent. Like, for instance, without Android, where would we be today? I remember not long ago when we had this WAP. I don't know how many of you remember WAPs, okay? And every phone had a different WAP software. But today with Android and maybe iOS, we really come close enough. Okay, so I think connectivity is very important. The third is I again, which is intelligence. Which I think Ripi really talked a lot about. The various idea of robotic inspection, AI, digital twins, blockchains, all of that is going to make a big difference in information processing. And the final one that nobody has yet talked about, which I believe is probably maybe industry or NDE 5.0, maybe not 4.0, is simulation. Believe that we are going to have a world where today we are looking at predetermined rules of engagement when you do bring in the intelligence. Tomorrow, I believe that we are going to have live simulation assisted intelligence, which means the codes that you now see takes hours to run is going to run in milliseconds. And in fact, some of the work that we have been doing is probably yet to materialize, but soon we will be able to simulate in very short time frames, but not by using computational mechanisms, but by using AI. So we are developing certain tools which we probably will be talking about by end of next year. And so I think simulation, live simulation, which means that the intelligence is being created not before, but during the process. And that I think is going to be. So ICIS is my 4 mantra for NDE 4.0.
Thank you very much. Now we got a mantra. Hey. So, who's sitting in front of us? We got, let's say, 2 consultants, an expert from industry, different size, 2 more or less educators, trainers, and let's travel a little bit, get their experience. And I would like to start with Kim. Wow. Kim, you worked in different type or sizes of industries, facilities, larger facilities and now very small facilities. How do you feel the difference, how they approach to 4.0? The larger one, the smaller one?
I've got nothing but compliments on my path. It's kind of, I feel like I've almost made my own NDE 4.0 pathway, starting with mag and penetrant to ultrasound and eddy current, and now kind of going into digital radiography. And the interesting thing in the larger organizations, there's as market leaders, a fiducious responsibility to make sure global continuity and coverage, right? So when that you flip that switch, it's actually done in a way that measures all regions with the high level of acuity, right? And there's a responsibility to educate at the boots on the ground level. There's resource capabilities to do so. That both companies, have that kind of capability, and they're viewing it as market leaders, guiding and coaching how, like my past employment with Olympus, they've actually led largely the 4.0 kind of cloud computing, and that's a gift, but in the fact that it's a format, but it's not the only format, but we all need to work together to really kind of morph it. And when you're a large company, you can make that kind of a big splash in the pond, right? The benefit of, I realized it was harder to do transformation, phased array in lieu of RT, technology-wise, in the fact that RT was still doing film. And it's a mindset shift, and it was a necessary thing to try to just get film into digital is a big challenge. So that's one of the reasons why I sought expansion in my side to impact the industry in its level where they are. We need to all do it together. But the nice thing is the company I'm with now is actually it's a big $1 billion parent company that's in the medical industry, and they're integrators, so they don't necessarily know NDT, but the wonderful thing is they've got a passion to bring medical over into the NDT community with artificial intelligence and the digital panels. There's this, so there's a larger global splash from the bigger companies and ability to have high visibility. But in a smaller organization, you have that agility and duct tape capabilities to really kind of do these short sprints, succeed with the feedback of industry, and hopefully put little incremental successes. It's 2 different worlds. It's different technologies. Both all have their strengths, but I think you need all of it, right?
Yeah.
So,
thank you. So you proved my thesis that there are companies approaching from the side you never know. But they know from the medical field how to deal with NDT or with inspection technologies. Whoop, here they are. And medical field is much huger, larger than NDT, and there's a lot of money in the market and a lot of innovation. So be careful. Very interesting. Thank you. Don, what do you think? How does that change the qualification requirements for the operators in future? From your experience, and how does it change our business? I'm a training manager as well. So what do you see coming up there?
Well, this question about how it affects the operator is challenging. It's kind of like my presentation yesterday. It's foggy, and but I'm concerned about people that have a certain skill set, and they are educated and they gain a new skill set. I'm also concerned about ethics. Okay? So I want to add whatever value I can to the team. I'm on the committee with Ripi, just trying to focus on the technician and look at things from a practical perspective. What we've heard so far is a lot of great vision, but I'm more of a practical step-by-step person, and I'm concerned about the technicians. I think that we'll always need technicians. We'll always need humans. There'll be human factors. We've done a lot of work together in the past, Ripi and I, on POD studies, and the people are the big factor. We can design experiments. We can design these beautiful PowerPoint presentations that take us from 1.0 to 5.0, and it paints a beautiful picture. But practically, I don't think we can't get there in big leaps. We're going to get there a little bit at a time. So it's the same way on the training side. I think we've been doing some 4.0 in the training industry in my business, but we didn't call it that. We evaluated students. We evaluated the curriculum. In 2013, for example, bought another company that did online training because people need different ways to interact and learn. And so I don't have a solid answer. That sounds like a foggy answer probably, right? I'm still foggy, so.
So thank you. Just to underline that, what is changing in training, what is changing in the kind of how we train people and how we need technicians. We lately gave a course on digital radiography and reproduced images on the computer. And we asked the students to put their images on an USB stick. And guess what? 80% of these people were not able to do that because they were born and raised with mobile phones. They couldn't handle the pure technique of a personal computer. How old have they been? Around 20. It was a surprise for the trainers, but hey, there's a big change. What is going on there? So there's a different mindset in a different generation, and that will change a lot.
As we've been introducing NDE 4.0 for the last couple of years, different sessions, different presentations. If I took a survey of the room right now, if I had a course on NDE 4.0 online, who would sign up for it? Everybody would, right? Because I mean, if I charged $1 million for the course, you wouldn't sign up. But if it was a reasonable price, people would sign up. People are interested. People want to be part of the process. So there'll be changes in what we're offering for sure.
And another story to add there. A neuroscientist gave a presentation at the German Society for NDT about the new mindset of those people. And he told us, we are receiving so much information today by using our phones, by watching TV, by having all these sources, that we had to sleep every day an hour more than in the past to let our computer here use all these information and store them and proceed them rightly. Who's doing that? I don't know anybody. Let's move forward to a more international perspective. I would like to ask Johannes, what's going on with NDT 4.0 in Germany, and how does it influence the world somehow? What is the world doing? What do you observe? Because you are traveling a lot, you know a lot. Give us, or try to give us, a picture of the international NDT 4.0 situation. Are you able to do so? Is it foggy?
It's a process. As you said it's how do you say flurry? Foggy? Yeah, foggy is a good point. We started with those activities on NDE 4.0. Some were, I think, in 2016, 2017 in Germany. In the beginning, people were talking about those points, and all of us didn't really know what was going on. Then we started to build up those subcommittees who started to work on those topics. And by now I think for the subcommittee interfaces, we had by now 6 meetings for 2 days. And we worked a lot on it. We invited a lot of guest speakers out of the Industry 4.0, and we learned a lot from them. So there is so much going on in Germany, internationally, and we have to learn from all of them. And if we look into the Industry 4.0, Industry 4.0 is also not old. It's born somewhere around 2010. So that's just also 8 or 9 years. So even those guys, even they are 100,000s, they are still learning about it. So now in Germany, we have those subcommittees. We start working on it. We start publishing on it so that we get kind of into a information exchange. And on the other side, I'm trying to go to a lot of international conferences actually to share a little bit of that knowledge and to share my enthusiasm for this topic so that we get others to also work on it. And last year we started here in the US. I know that the British now started an initiative. I think Australia is going to start something, and I'm pretty sure that Korea after the next World Conference will start. And so we are getting into more and more international activities, and that's why I think the next World Conference will be really important, because that's where we will have all the people together of all the NDE societies. And then we will see, okay, that's where it could be going, and we get other NDE communities to start it. And then finally 2021, when we'll have the first international conference on that topic. That's, I guess, where we'll start to share the first knowledge about what we were doing in all countries. So for me, the international exchange, that's what's key, what will be key for the success of NDE 4.0.
Johannes, I remember you offered a workshop on NDE 4.0 and before this conference here. Was anybody there?
I saw a few faces, and I must say that this was a huge success. ASNT normally shuts down the classes once they reach 50 people. I think they sold more than 60 seats. And I think the interest was really good, and the participation of the class was good. And we need to do more like this. And those 4 hours, the time was really short to get into, because I was trying to explain some of the basic of Industry 4.0 to the audience. And 4 hours, it's just not enough. Perhaps it's 1-2 days, or even, and it will be getting more. The more knowledge we gather, the more time we need for education.
Krishna.
Yeah, hi.
May I say you are coming from an emerging economy, a huge country, sometimes very much developed, sometimes very much underdeveloped. What's going on in your country with NDT 4.0?
Okay. The short answer is none. If in the name of NDE 4.0, but just to elaborate on what you had started with. India is not what you may imagine India to be. We, believe it or not, have the largest refinery complex in the world. We have the longest network of rails in the world. We probably have the most efficient space transportation system, where we sent a rocket to Mars at 1/10 the cost of anybody has done. So India has amazing technological, base, but with that, you also have amazing problems. So it's a live wire for a lot of problems where NDE is a solution, or at least a part solution. I remember when one of the major bearing company came and visited me, and asked them what remains in bearings. I thought bearings was a done deal. What's research in bearing? And he said, hey, look at India. I have to make a bearing at 1/10 the cost of what I do in Europe or US, and it has to endure 10 times the load and the variance of what I have to when you go to the roads of India. So these challenges are absolutely real, and what this has led to in many cases, where you can talk to several, and there are books available on this, is a process called as reverse innovation. So where technological challenges are solved in countries like India, and then they find a way back into the more developed countries like US and Europe. And so this is called reverse innovation. So India absolutely, I believe, can benefit from NDE 4.0. Okay. But I think there's a lot of learning curve that we need to go through before we do that. Okay, I mean, NDE 4.0 promises low cost NDE, probably better safety, and also significantly better performance. And some of you saw who were there in my talk this morning. Pretty much every data that we showed was all taken in India. That tells you that technology and advancement is absolutely, welcome by the industries in India. But more importantly, our ability to be able to penetrate the industry and collect data, which is very critical in NDE 4.0, the entry barriers are a little bit lower. So we are able to collect a lot more data in India. And the kind of problems that we have is amazing. And so the variety of problems that we face and the challenges that we face obviously yields to a point that your database becomes extremely rich and strong. So that's very important. I think the final thing is that how can we sell it? The concept of NDE 4.0 or any technology will all lie in how we can sell it, how we can sell it to the industry, how we can sell it to the people who are doing NDE. There are so many vendors, so many instrument manufacturers, so much of software that goes into this, so much variety. How do we make it all come together? How do we sell it? How do we get an Android of NDE 4.0? Maybe we need to have Google here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow.
Ripi, one word. What we saw here is that high interest. Aha, something is going on. We need to have a look into that technology in every country, I guess. Some countries started, some countries are waiting for that. And one of the basic tools to bring that all together is standardization. But I tell you something, that's one of my hobbies. I'm one of the, members of the drafting committee of the new ISO 9712. What do I observe? I'm a little bit bad now. 43 people are sitting on a table. 40 are sitting in front of their mobile devices. They open their computers and they are not there. Their body is there. Their mind is somewhere in the World Wide Web. Looking around, doing nothing. Coming up after 20 minutes, oh, I got a question, which has nothing to do with the things we do. Why do I say that? Not to be bad. I say that the interest in industries to pay for standardization work is very low. And since money is so important to our business today, it is very difficult to sell to our managers. Why should we travel to the ASNT conference? Why should we travel to the other conference in Korea? Why should we work and contribute to standardization? This is so difficult to explain, and that is one of the key things we have to do on a management level, to sell that, so that everybody is coming to standardization. And I was hoping that in 4.0 we have a kind of standardization. And Ripi, I read something in one of your slides. There was a 56,000 ISO standard. Is it valid? Is it coming up? What's going on there?
Well, Ralph, yes. So, in 2013, just about when the Industry 4.0 term was picking up, the folks in Europe, particularly the French and the Swedish, they got together and they said, ISO 9000 is not going to cut it. ISO 27000 is not going to cut it. Right? And they actually scanned through all of the ISO documents and figured out we really need to create something that can provide guidance to a larger community on how do you actually navigate this world called VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, which is associated with every revolution. Right? So it kind of picked up momentum. Somebody gave a proposal. They didn't even know the number at that time. In the beginning, it was called 5050501, something like that. And then 1 year later, almost about 45 countries became a part of it. US joined into that game last year, and it's now called ISO 56000 series. The basic 56000 is about terminology. And guess what? 5 years down the lane, we still have not been able to define the term innovation as an internationally accepted definition. Right? And just a quick humor diversion over here. We were debating about innovation, and one guy stood up and said, "Can you define pizza?" And for 1 hour, we were debating on the definition of pizza, and we couldn't do it. Right? So then we said it's okay to keep debating about the definition of innovation. The next particular standard, which is 56002, that was released in July this year. It's called Guidance on Innovation Management. It actually walks you through how do you go from an idea to screening an idea, to creating a business model around it, to creating a product or a project or a service out of it, and taking it to the market. So that's now been published, and it's it's fairly well written. It doesn't give as many examples as I would have liked in it, but the struggle was, again, getting all of these people to align on how to create something that is usable across large company, small company, academia, government, across various countries, various economies. So with that struggle, it got a little diluted, but it is still fundamentally a very sound document, needs a little bit of an interpretation, but can be used. And once that came out, or it was halfway through, the community felt, well, we also need to provide details on how to do strategic intelligence, how to handle intellectual property, how to actually generate more ideas. So there are 5 more standards that were proposed, 56003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, how to collaborate, because this Industry 4.0 needs a lot of collaboration. So 56004 is about collaboration, and how do you manage technology development across diverse organizations. A bunch of these standards are now close to release, and they're even looking for companies who are willing to adopt it, be the pilots for that, and give them feedback so they can improve it. But that's something I would urge you to go to the ISO website and see what you can find. Or if you have ISO 9000 consultant in your company, ask them if they can help you. This is something worth reading. Even if you don't use it for NDE 4.0 and you want to use it just for whatever little product you're developing, it's a useful document.
Oh, thank you very much. So let's summarize a little bit. What did we see? A lot of interest, a lot of challenges. Nobody knows. It's still a little bit of foggy, but I guess something needed to be done. And we heard about the beginnings. There are committees coming up. There's standardization coming up. And I would like to ask everybody here on stage, how do you see ASNT in this field? What do you require ASNT to do? Don, please start.
I think ASNT has already taken the first step by recognizing and establishing a committee. The committee has a chair. The committee has subcommittees now. There's action items that are being developed. So things have started. ASNT needs to continue to support it and also support communication. We had the first 4-hour workshop at this particular conference. We've also had some private workshops at my company. So we'll be advertising more and more, and I think ASNT will take up the challenge too to advertise, communicate more. They've already established a complete session at the spring conference, and so ASNT is doing their part for now.
Kim, thank you.
ASNT, I find, there's a lot of other activities going on, and I hope to see them in a role of shepherding the overall manpower behind a lot of the activities that are going on, because, I've been a part of Sprint Robotics for the past 5 years, and, ASME has the UAS and robotics program, and NACE has programs. There's so many different committees. I think there needs to be a high level of transparency about everybody's saying they're doing the first World Conference and the first this and the first that. There's a lot of firsts. We just, as an industry, there needs to be visual clarifications on the handoff and trade-offs and roles and responsibilities within these various committees, be it, when you, as me manufacturing, now they need to manufacture, like I was saying earlier, a different man weight, or not have stairs, have poles so the robots can climb. I mean, there's a whole lot of moving parts to everything having to change. So I would like to be able to find one single source that focuses on how we evolve the human element in this, and, kind of shepherd the global aspects of it from the American side. Yeah?
So transparency and communication are the key, I guess, expected to be done. Ripi, how you see that?
Well, this is one community, and this approach to NDE 4.0 needs a community-based solution. So ASNT is the only way to actually bring it out to the field, right? We need to engage the research communities, we need to engage the educators, all of that. Don's already mentioned about the committee and the subcommittees, all that is there. One thing that I feel is ASNT ought to add, which we didn't quite vote positively on the committee yesterday, is some kind of a minimum awareness appreciation requirement for ASNT level 3s and level 2s. I think ASNT ought to, because it is like this, that it is so new that if you leave it on the table, people will say, yes, I'm interested, and then they see it, and then they think, oh, it's foggy, and it's 5 years away, and I don't need to do it today. And we will actually be run over because it will come at us from all other sides. It's so fast, it's so furious. And awareness is one thing. 10%, 15% people who are early adopters will pick it on their own. But to go through the early majority and the late majority, it has to become something like, you know what? You got to do this. Within 2 years, I want all ASNT level 3s to have at least 4 hour or 2 hour of training or awareness or something. Got to build that into the curriculum. Got to build that into the handbooks. Got to talk about it more all the time. Move this day, which is the last day of the conference, to actually at least the second day of the conference, so that we have a larger participation. I think there are things that we need to do to make that happen.
Thank you. Johannes.
Yes, thank you. For me, ASNT is the largest NDE community in the world. And if we look from an international perspective, we just need ASNT to focus on this topic. We need all the large communities all around the globe to focus on this topic. And as I said before, it will only be successful, actually, if we work together. And Ripi said it correct. This topic, last year we started on it, we got a really good response. I think this year we have an even better response. But people are still not, if I talk to people, most of the people do not really see what NDE 4.0 is about. And by putting it on the last day, even that we have a lot of people here in the room, there could be so much more. And a lot of people do not even get that opportunity to see our presentations, to see our interaction, as we are on the last day. So I think that one would, for me, NDE 4.0, Ripi said yesterday in the committee meeting, in a couple of years, NDE 4.0, perhaps it will not be named that way anymore, but it will be key. It will be the basis of all of it. 90% of the conference will be about NDE 4.0. And all the other stuff perhaps will be then some classical stuff. And this is the recognition of those activities we are trying to do. That's something perhaps ASNT could improve a little bit upon, but I think we already talked with some board directors and they are getting into it. But ASNT is just one community. There is others who even didn't take on to that subject. So ASNT is on a good way to doing it.
Thank you. Krishna.
So when you're last on the dais, so you tend to wonder what else can I add to it. But just a couple of things. I think ASNT is, as he said, the largest community and needs to take leadership role in this. And it's got to do with looking at it from creating ownership across the world with all other societies. And has to do it in a dispassionate way. And that's important. It's got to be done not only with the other societies, but it also needs to be done with the industries that are, associated with, whether it's the training, whether it is the vendors, whether it is the manufacturers. we need a buy-in from everybody for this to be successful. But more importantly, I also believe that we can't do it in isolation. NDE community by itself can't do it in isolation. NDE community, NDE 4.0 must leverage Industry 4.0, which means we need to work with other groups across the world that are very much into Industry 4.0. I mean, there's one thing that we all know that, when we make a sensor or when we make a measurement, and if we have information about some other measurements, then it becomes much more information and the decision is far more, you can improve POD, reduce false call rates. This is called as soft sensing. I think that will become a reality when you do NDE 4.0 because you need to not only measure an ultrasonic measurement, but you also must know some process parameters that are also influencing that measurement and your decision becomes very critical. So it is possible that we need to communicate and also bring in the Industry 4.0 guys into the community to help us do NDE 4.0 better. Okay.
Thank you very much. So you see, ASNT is on a good way doing that. Communication, transparency is important. Some organizational steps to move 4.0 at the beginning of this conference to allow the vendors, when they finish the exhibition, to take part in this discussion. I think that's a good way because they are allowed to come here because there is an exhibition and we need to have a look how to bring them into this discussion here as well. So thank you. We are in a wonderful way, I think. But we are here in a panel discussion. Now we had a panel presentation a little bit, so that's why I guess we are open to questions from the audience. Who would like to ask something?
Ralph, can we exchange microphones so that you can give it to the person asking the question?
Let's start in front here.
Hello, my name is Valerie Godinez. We all know each other from Madras, and thank you for all the opinions that you show in this panel. I think is great. I have one question, and I think it's probably a big elephant in the room. When I go and talk to customers of different industries, and I pitch the idea of automation, robotics, online monitoring, AI, etc., they all love it. But a lot of them see it from the point of view, I can start eliminating certain operations, certain jobs, including inspection jobs. We are a society where our base are inspectors. So how do you foresee the impact that NDT 4.0 will have in our base? We've seen it in Industry 4.0. A lot of jobs have been eliminating, change, move. This will have an impact also. So what is your opinion about?
Who wants to take it?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think if you roll back about 45 years ago, so we used to have guys in India called as typists and stenographers, right? And India is very, very dependent on its manpower and job creation. In the last 5 years, we are perceivably going through a crisis of similar nature, wherein today with all the automation, many jobs seemingly are going to go away. So, which is exactly the paradigm that you are referring to. Now, experience tells me that never happens. When the computers came, what happened? All my guys who are doing typing and stenographing became computer programmers. They got 10 times the salary, did quite well. Okay. Now, the many jobs that probably will go away. You will probably have no more drivers in India, which is no more cooks, no more call centers. However, I think, believe it or not, there are many sort of training centers that are cropping up, all focused on AI, focused on Industry 4.0, IoT, And very soon, these guys will all get retrained in these technologies. And soon, you'll not have a guy who will be actually going and making a measurement. There'll be a robot. But then somebody behind that who is going to tell the robot what to do, what not to do. And that's going to be the difference. And data analysis, interpretation, you're going to become, so the job level is going to go up. Okay, and probably it's going to be more value to the person also. So there will be retransformation, re-education, retraining that needs to take place. And so that will be something that has to be looked at in parallel. And ASNT and other societies can really, really look at it differently. Thank you.
Every revolution has created more jobs. This is going to be no different. It's not really a jobs problem, it's a learning problem. If we choose not to learn, we'll be obsolete. When a revolution happens, we become obsolete faster than otherwise.
Yeah, qualification is changing, but I still remember an opening session here. It was about salary and NDT. And one of the things there was that they said, hey, we are getting short on operators. And that could be one of those solutions as well. There was... It's a little moderator's party.
I would like to mention here that as Mr. Krishnan has mentioned, it is always an opportunity that is available and existent, and we try to find a source and a solution for it in some way. Maybe depending upon the necessity by which we have to find that solution, we try to take a lead. I can say that in many of these cases, like from probably a Coca-Cola bottle on the top, whether the bottle glass is cracked, whether the cap when they are riding it, when it is rupturing, there used to be sensors and methods by which it used to sense and then mechanize and then do a fast operation. The only thing is it has not been named by the way by which we have found a solution for it. The same way there has been even today in many places, maybe as a part of automation, they have introduced modifications for human interference with the way the job goes, the process progresses. So there are solutions for it. And maybe by the society trying to take part and then bring an awareness, we can say that it will become a standardized approach so that anyone can use. It can become more easily affordable to most of the places where it is required, and it may be more appropriate for its effective purpose. I think that is the reason probably society takes a lead, and it is all existent and we need to only look at it as I see. Thank you.
Question. In the U.S., what is the percentage of film radiography versus digital radiography, and specifically for each industry, aerospace, marine, ship, piping, so on and so on?
Well, that's part of my quest in coming over. I've only been here 2 months, so, it's still going, but there's hundreds. I mean, why did Kodak get back into film, right? We saw that, and Carestream, there's big players there. It's in the U.S., oil and gas, high percentage still using film, especially in pipeline, but you've got PHMSA going through its regulatory requirements now, pushing to digitization, right? So that transformation is going to take place. And I actually have heard it's like the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in just film, and it's gone up 7% each year. So it's going up when you think it should be going down. And so that's part of why I wanted to come over to this side, is try to impact that. And I can get your information and stay in touch with you as I get deeper into it. But I don't have that quantifiable percentage. I believe aerospace is way further along. Military is probably way further along, in the digital side. No? He'll probably answer that one.
Yeah, there's no easy answer from this particular panel for that particular question. But I can tell you in the military, I was evaluating digital radiography back in the early 90s, right? And last year, the Air Force made multi-million-dollar purchase of CR, okay, computed radiography. So it took them 20 years. That process is still going on. People have been saying for over 20 years that film is going away, but it's not. You just heard film is going up. Okay, there's certain applications where it's fantastic technology. So there's not going to be a simple transition.
Past performance is no guarantee of future. I think up until now we have looked at radiography more in terms of there's a film and there's a digital record. But if you figure out that we now have tools to actually manage the digital data, which we did not have 20 years ago, the value proposition has changed. 20 years ago, if you had to go from a film to a digital thing, the value proposition was, okay, storage space reduction. Today, that's not the case. Today, the case is that I can have digital records of so many things and analyze the data and look at trends and look at stuff that I could not see 20 years ago simply because I did not have the capability to analyze big data. IBM Watson, which is the AI computer that you know, there's now a program where they're going to put 1 million digital radiographs of human patients and train him to be a certified radiologist. So you see, the opportunity today is much more than what it was 20 years ago when Air Force first started looking at it. That's the point I was making earlier in the morning. If you think of safer, cheaper, faster, the opportunity today is much more than what it was earlier. So this will pick up.
One more comment to film. Film doesn't mean that it can't be integrated. We can use scanners to digitize those results. Afterwards, we can even eliminate perhaps some archives we have. And then we can use AI and stuff like that to actually post-process the data we actually collected with films. So for some applications where film is way better because perhaps you can slide it underneath in a way better way, it could be a better solution just using film. But later on, then we have to archive or we have to digitize it and to analyze the data. And that will give us, some better results than what we had in the past.
I got 2 figures in my mind. We are doing a lot of RT training. And 10 years ago, we trained 2/3 of the people in film radiography and 1/3 in radioscopy. Today, radioscopy is still 1/3. Film radiography is going to 1/3 down, and it's dropping down. And digital imaging technologies, digital radiography is growing. It's taking over the remaining part of the 70% which are left. So something is moving there. It's just an observation.
I'm going to add one more comment to that, though. This is an important conversation that has to happen outside of just NDT. What I've found is a big problem is the whole value chain. You know, you have, let's take oil and gas. You have owner, operator, EPC, fabricator, down to the inspection company, right? You can sit there and get buy-in, but when you have, let's say, a project manager on site who has been looking at film for decades, and you try to bring him a phased array screen, that blue screen of death in their perception, there's an education factor that has to happen at different points inside of the whole process. And so I don't know who assumes that responsibility in broadcasting the advantages and also in doing time mapping. And the same couple of weeks ago at a facility, I saw 2 packets of reshoots, you know. That guy they're going to have to go back out and reacquire. And so when you start preaching the value of real-time at-site confirmation, I'm seeing all the IQIs, you know, that value proposition. So we need to make our broadcast messaging much, much larger, but from an NDT perspective and how it imposes a cost factor multiple and a quality increase, and then also back to the digital twin data analytics. So it's it's got to happen at all levels, and so not just in NDT people.
Keep it.
Nope.
Hi there. I work in the automotive industry, and my observation is that NDE 4.0 is happening right now. It's already been started. I work in a company, well, if you could recall some of the incidents like with Takata airbags, with the Toyota Prius sticking accelerator and the ignitions for a number of GM vehicles, you cannot tolerate one problem. It'll wipe you out. A quality issue, undetected, can be serious, especially if you're dealing with steering, drive, or other types of components. My job right now involves buying automatic non-destructive test equipment, including eddy current. I've purchased ultrasonic, radiographic, laser imaging, that type of thing. And we're required by our customers to barcode and trace every single part through every single operation with permissions to run the next operation based on successfully either being passed by the previous operation or testing successfully. So that is, they call it error proofing actually. And so as part of error proofing, the only way you can error proof certain things 100% is by 100% NDT. And guess what? Even if you do 100% NDT, how do you verify that a part didn't walk around a couple of operations and end up in a vehicle? You can't do that. So NDE is something, NDE 4.0 is something that is happening with urgency in the automotive industry right now, especially if you need redundant systems like autonomous vehicles, which are not controlled by an operator. So those failure modes are extremely severe. And so I would say that there's going to be a huge need for this type of thing in the automotive industry intrinsically, not because it's being pushed by anybody else, but we're going to become pretty similar to the aerospace and medical industries in terms of urgency. So that's just an observation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Lin Yu from oil and gas company. So it's good to share my perspective. First is really appreciate the three speaker. It's really insightful, visionary, and inspirational too. I'm from the oil and gas company. My one big part is, we want all the processing pipe vessels be safe, and the people who do the inspection can do safer and better. I see the NDE create value by, just provide the data. We can create that a closed loop. Or, a couple of speakers talk about the closed loop. You feed the information to the asset owner, so we know, our asset is in a good condition. So I see the technology play a role, different method, different tools. I see the mindset in the check, not, think NDE is a cost. You need that data. And I also see the overall, how our society, we need to work together. It's not a small thing. Everything take time, take steps. The way I see it is more like, almost like you need to start from the manufacturer design phase, incorporate a lot of sensor there. You can get the data, use the data down the road during the service, so can contribute to manage it better. Either manufacture machinery or oil refinery as, pipeline, big vessels. That's just my perspective. And really valuable, this panel. Thank you.
Thank you. There were more questions, yes?
So Industry 4.0, it's a very big idea, and there are lots of different advancements which can bring about this new revolution for the NDT industry. However, when it takes us 27 years to really incorporate a brand new technology, is there anything today that is there any one small step today that people within NDE can implement that could help to bring the whole industry up just a little bit, just a little bit closer to this broad goal of NDT 4.0?
Yeah, there is already kind of a lot of measures around. If you hear to the presentation which were given here at the conference or at other conference, you see that already a lot of people are trying to use AI for data processing. And in some cases, that AI actually gives, if you actually evaluate the data, you see that the results given are way better. I've seen one on computed tomography where a single human operator gets up to about a 50% POD, and the AI gets up to 95%. So that's one way. Or also if you look into robotics, into all the drones, that's already around. Now, it's tiny bits and pieces, but it's growing. And now if we think on the bigger picture, if we think about the IoT, how we can provide data from the NDE to Industry 4.0, then actually, we are now starting with the development of that companion specification. So in about a year and a half, we will have that companion specification, and we can already provide the data to industry. So then just the equipment manufacturers have to implement it, and we are already there. So we are speaking about 3 years, 5 years perhaps, and we will be at first already big steps to get there. Now, there will always be guys who don't want to do it, but and that's why perhaps to really get everybody onto the board, it will take 25 years. But the first steps, they're already here.
To the gentleman who was just talking from the oil and gas industry, one of the things that's really been nice is a consortium of various owner-operators having transparency because they all share the same challenge. So working together to create an environment where actually robots for in-service tank inspections or, not having companies like, well, I'm not going to say company specific, but they have the principle of by 2020, no human entry into a pressure vessel. And if you have to do human entry, you have to write an exception. And in the past, it was the other way around. And that came from a corporate messaging, right? So those successes in access and collaborative industry-wide use cases done and highly promoted and worked through and integrated and not cost transparency of the project, but cost transparency to process, quality, increased, that kind of stuff. It actually makes other people draw and adopt with a lot of, getting those industry leaders to kind of follow along behind. I find that just getting good use cases is critical.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm thinking we are talking about survival, not about a nice idea. We are customer driven. So the customers will require us to deliver data in a format they can read. If my device is not able to do so, goodbye, there are others. Oh, and to bring that forward, if I would be such a vendor, I would have to look into my devices. How can I become ready for the future? How can I deliver the possibility to take out my data in a format that they can use it? It's happening today. We heard it about the automotive industries. We have the similar one in the aircraft industries. And we have it in the inspection business. We in Germany have refineries which require us to deliver all the data through a platform. They have their own platform. The bad thing is every company now builds its own platform, which is very nice. Not just in NDT, even between our customers. If we deliver certificates or documentations, we have to deal with 20 different formats and logins and how we get the data there. That's a pain we need to overcome by standardization. I hope that will come up. But that is survival. It's nothing to dream. Ask yourself, how is that influencing my business? What can I do? And at first, come here, learn, aha, that's it. Okay, so I'm prepared to react. I think that is one of the key questions there. Yeah? More questions? Yeah,
One thing I wanted to share with you is, yes, it is large, and that's why we say community needs to work with it. Businesses usually have this thing called ROI, right? Whenever you want to do something, they will say, show me the return on investment. Show me the value it will bring. There's one thing that is traditionally missing in the financial way of doing ROI is the cost of not doing it. So when Ralph mentioned it's not about growth, it's about survival, actually the cost of not adopting Industry 4.0 is so heavy at the moment. That's not where you want to go.
I just have sort of a follow-up question, actually, just what Ralph was saying. As a vendor and an equipment manufacturer, we're having to go and integrate with many, many systems.
We cannot hear you.
Sorry, as an equipment developer, we're having to go and integrate with many, many systems, and we don't really see much standardization of one person accepting a data format and then being able to communicate that and view that. What sort of timescales do you guys sort of foresee for the standardization of some of these formats and adoption of these communication protocols that will allow these, equipment manufacturers to go and start tying into these things?
Yeah, so we talked about that in our ASNT committee meeting yesterday, and one of the subcommittees is going to look at guidance on standards. From ASNT perspective, we will not develop standards. We will adopt it from the ICT community, from the Industry 4.0 community, and we will just figure out, okay, there are 4 of them out there. This is a good one for these applications, and something else is better for some other application. We're looking at producing those guidelines. Second thing is these standards will also change. They are evolving. What existed good 5 years ago is not necessarily good today, and that technology is changing very fast. So one of the challenges we have, and we should keep it on our ASNT committee activity, is to continuously stay current and keep informing the community about these are the best practices, these are the best standards that are available today to use. And we have taken that task on.
Yeah, Ripi is completely right. The interfaces are already around. So if you want to adopt them, we can speak afterwards and I can tell you how. But there will be ways to actually get them more into the NDE 4.0 community or in the NDE community, and that will, I guess, take 3 to 5 years. So just to give you the numbers of the years we think it will take.
I think it's going to be a continuous race and a continuous learning and adapting thing. Look at your laptops that came about 10 years ago, and even just visually, just the hardware outside, how we have gone from serial ports to parallel ports to USB ports to USB 3, USB-C, and HDMI and all sorts of things. The same thing is happening on the software, and same thing will happen on the data exchange protocols as well. That technology is fast and furious.
So, thank you, everybody. I think we are a little bit running out of time now. The panelists are open for personal discussion, I get. Thank you very much for taking part, and give a round of applause to the panelists, please.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Yes, there is a code. We can give you that. Yesterday at the ASNT committee, people said there should be an open information session. I think this panel is a great open information session. But in the spirit of demand from the ASNT members, this morning we announced, we kind of took a call early in the morning, and we even announced that we'll be here till noon. Johannes and I will be here till noon. If anybody wants to engage with us on the conversation, we are available.